What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to teach you how to do the Whirlybird 540 behind the boat on your wakeboard. The tricks you're going to want to already know how to do before attempting the Whirlybird 540 are basically just a heel side, backside 180, perfectly wake to wake, landing bolts every single time. Know how to do that backside 180, even if you land a little bit sketchy, even if you land perfect, knowing backside 180s is absolutely necessary. Also, you're going to need to know a tantrum, a Whirlybird, and also a tantrum to blind would be extremely helpful. So get those tantrum blinds on lock. And if you have all this stuff on lockdown, the Whirlybird 540 shouldn't be too difficult. For a lot of you, this is probably your first ever Mob 540. It's actually the easiest Mob 540 to do, maybe even so easy that a lot of people don't even consider Whirlybirds as a Mob. I personally consider it a Mob and a Whirlybird 540, a Mob 540, just because you are doing a flip and a 540 rotation in the same jump. So yeah, I don't know the rules behind all of that, but this is probably pretty exciting for you because this is definitely a pretty big trick. Anyways, the approach you're going to want to take for the Whirlybird 540 is exactly the same as you would take for your standard Whirlybird. Get about 3/4 of the way away from the wake as you possibly can and roll onto a nice progressive medium edge in towards the wake. If you do want to edge in a little bit harder and flatten off harder to get that straight up, straight down pop to get even more vertical than you normally would, that is definitely a great suggestion, but do whatever you can to land perfectly wake to wake. Keep in mind, in the clip of my Whirlybird 540 in this video, I'm actually kind of jumping too far and landing in the trough, which is a much heavier, harder landing to do. I definitely suggest trying to land as close to the top of the wake as possible and landing down it. That will be a much easier landing. Even if you barely, like, slightly case the top of the wake and crush through it, that's much better than actually landing in the trough. So try and land as close to the top of the wake as you possibly can. Now that you're approaching the wake on that medium edge, just before you get to it, you're going to want to flatten off, drop that backhand, get those shoulders squared up with the wake, and do your standard tantrum pop off the wake or standard Whirlybird pop off the wake that you normally would do. You've gotten that trip flip pop off of the top of the wake and you've stood nice and tall off of the peak. Now that you're getting that pop, it's time to take that handle and really rip it across your face while looking over your rear shoulder at the same time to really get that Whirlybird motion initiated. Since you're going to be spinning to 540 this time rather than just a 360, I definitely recommend punching across a little bit harder just to really get that momentum going. Take note though that you don't actually want to punch too hard and sort of get yourself out of control and lose line tension, because if you don't have a nice line tension, it is kind of hard to rip yourself to blind. So make sure, even though you're punching pretty hard, try and stay in control and maintain that line tension throughout the entire trick. So at the end of the trick, it's definitely easier to have that tension there and ready to pull yourself to blind. Your Whirlybird motion has been initiated and now you're starting to sort of whip all the way around throughout the Whirlybird portion of the trick. As you're sort of coming out of the Whirlybird, instead of trying to set up for a landing, just make sure as your arm comes out of that across your face position, make sure you just continually try and keep that handle close and start trying to pull it down towards your lower back to really continue that rotation so you make sure that you go all the way to blind. You finished up the Whirlybird portion of the trick. You kept that handle close, pulled it all the way down towards your lower back. You're about to approach your landing. Make sure you get that chest over your toes. You'll spot your landing down here below you. Bend your knees on impact and ride away from the wake blind. If you're not super great at landing blind, but you are still attempting this trick, that is okay. But whenever you are landing blind at the end of the trick, just make sure when you land, you'll land blind for just a short period of time and get that handle into your other hand as quickly as possible. Also, another mistake I see when people are attempting this trick for the first time is that they sort of try and break it up into two different tricks, a whirlybird and then a backside 180. So if you do a whirlybird and then you're already set up to land the whirlybird, it's almost impossible to regain tension and then rip yourself to blind. It is possible, but I do think it's much more difficult to do it this way. So whenever you are attempting this trick, be prepared to just go to 5. Be ready to do the trick before you even take off of the wake. Don't do a whirlybird and check if you have time. Just make sure that you're chucking a whirly 540 straight out of the gate. It'll be much easier for you in the long run. Keep in mind there is back edge potential whenever you are attempting this trick, but I feel that most of the time when you crash, you'll end up slipping on your butt rather than actually catching your back edge. I do think it's definitely worth the risk. But if you do get a concussion, it's definitely your responsibility and not mine. I'm gonna give you a brief little summary of the entire whirlybird 540 trick. Be about 3/4 of the way away from the wakes as possible. Progressively roll into a medium edge in towards the wakes. Last second before you approach the wake, flatten off, square your shoulders up to the wake and have your rear hand drop. Do your standard tantrum or trip flip pop, and as you're taking off the top of the wake, make sure you rip that handle across your face while looking over your rear shoulder to really get that whirlybird motion initiated. As your whirlybird is finished whipping around, make sure you don't let that arm out and be prepared for landing already, but instead make sure you keep that handle close and go from across your face and pull it down towards your lower back to get yourself ready to land in that blind position. Now you're about to approach your landing. Spot your landing down below, bend your knees on impact, and just ride away. That's how you do the whirlybird 540. If you guys like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Comment below what kind of videos you guys want to see next, or any questions you have, or what tricks you guys want to learn next. And remember, I'll be uploading a wakeboarding video every second day forever, so make sure you guys subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace!